Welcome back everybody, thank you for watching another video. So tonight I want to talk to you guys about the new Netflix movie Finding Ohana. Alright, so first of all, I was super excited for this movie to come out. I thought this was going to be the new Goonies, but unfortunately it fell way short. If I had to give it a rating, I would give it 4 out of 10 stars, maybe 4.5. Sincerely guys, I am so heartbroken and so disappointed that this fell so short of the goal. I mean, this had all of the necessary elements to be as good as Goonies, right? You got the supernatural mythology of the night marchers, you got a treasure hunt, and you got the beautiful scenery of Hawaii. Like seriously, how hard could this be? The blueprint has already been established and you don't have to follow it verbatim, step for step, just stick to the elements. The movie is plagued with horrible acting, really bad character development between the relationship between characters, and just things that are unnecessarily in the movie that don't need to be there at all. Now there are some good things that I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, but some really classic examples of bad acting, and I'm going to forgive all of the attempts at trying to do a pidgin accent, which I'm really disappointed in Kelly Huin, because she's from Hawaii. But if you look at the scenes with her and her dad, Kimo, and they're crying saying ikalamai, and I'm happy that they put ikalamai in there, right, saying I'm sorry. But that scene when they're crying and really struggling to get the pidgin accent out, that's a horrible scene. Then there's even a simple scene when she's sitting outside crying and her classmate George comes over and they start talking. Even though that's a very unimportant scene and there's nothing really going on, the acting that's happening on that bench is horrible. And then there's a scene in the hospital where Leilani's arguing with Kimo and George is in the room with the other nurse. That scene got really uncomfortable really quick out of nowhere. So I guess you could say the adult actors didn't do a good job. And really this movie should be about the adventures of the kids, but without that character development, the movie suffered. Just for example, the first 5 minutes or so of the movie, you got Peely with her friend doing the scavenger hunt geocaching. Why is that even there? You don't even see that character for the rest of the movie. What I would have done is put her brother there along with her on that scavenger hunt. That way at least you establish, hey, these people know each other, they love each other, they're brother and sister, at least they want to be around each other, that relationship is there. And then you can have the brother-sister bantering, going them back and forth, have him be like the bronze and have her be the brain, have them discuss what's going on with mom and all the things that's going on in their life as they're going through that scavenger hunt. Now, while you got that going on one burner, you cut back to the mom, maybe on a phone call, maybe on Facebook, maybe on her phone, talking to George, right, her friend from high school that she was sitting on the bench with, saying, hey, your dad's not in great shape, I think you should call him. No, we're not on very good terms. Now what you're establishing is not only the connection between her and George, but her and her father and why things are a little bit rocky. So now you got that burner going and this burner going. Alright, so next up, boom, the kids win the scavenger hunt. They come home, they're all excited. Mom, we won the scavenger geocaching thing. Woo, we got this trip to go wherever's. Leilani then says to them, hey, that's great news, but I got some bad news. Papa's not doing so well. Ioane can say something like, oh, Papa's in trouble. I remember living in Hawaii so long ago. Peely says, I don't even remember that. I was just a baby. Then maybe they have a conversation about, how sick he is. And now you're bringing in Kimo, the relationship between Leilani and her dad, Ioane's relationship with Hawaii, and how awkward things are. Now what you're getting is the building of the relationship instead of just jumping there out of nowhere. So without taking the time to develop those characters and the relationship between those characters, I really didn't believe that Leilani was the parent of Ioane and Peely. I really didn't care what happened to Kimo and Leilani. I didn't care that even George was in the movie at all. When you have that lack of buy-in because of that lack of character development, who cares about the characters? Which leads into the kids who are supposed to carry this movie, but because they didn't spend enough time developing the relationship between these 4 characters before throwing them into the whole of adventure, I didn't believe any of it. Here is just a small example of how I would have tried to develop these characters a little bit more and give them more depth because they're pretty one-dimensional. The first time that Ioane saw Hana, he was just like, oh, she's so beautiful. I probably would have put a little bit of background behind that. Maybe he remembers playing with her as a small kid. Now there's just kind of this connection between him and her from way back in the day, and they all of a sudden see each other and they go, Ioane? Hana? Now with Peely and Owen, who are the 2 key characters here, I would have spent more time having them develop that relationship together. I probably would have had them do research at the library downtown, looking things up, searching the internet, doing more trials before they get into that venture. Because that was way too quick. Like they were down in that hole before they ever really got to know each other. There's so many other things that could have had these characters do with each other to have them invested in each other in the movie. Maybe go pick Taro, maybe go surf on the beach, and maybe go pick Limu. Do something to show the audience that these characters are invested in their relationships in the movie so that when they're in trouble, we feel invested. But without that, again, who cares? And the one last thing I want to cover is the putting of things into the movie and having them do nothing, just useless things in there for no reason. Mainly, the one that irritated me is the spider bite on Ioane's hand. So he gets bitten, Owen tells him, hey, you are probably gonna get sick, and that's all that ever happens. He gets a little bit sick, but he's never in any real danger, so it doesn't really do anything. They don't do anything with it. I would have kept the spider bite in the movie and said, hey, Owen knows about the spider bite. Let's have him find a way to heal it. Like, hey, Ioane, that's a spider bite, you're sick, but there is a cure, like a magical mushroom that only grows in caves, or maybe an ancient Hawaiian remedy that's a tree or a weed or something that only grows in caves, and have him go try to find it. So when that cave crashed, I would have had the cave separate Owen from the rest of the three. Now you have a increased amount of anxiety. You have one kid on his own who's totally nerdy, separated from the three, have him stumble around, find that magic mushroom, and have him try to fight back to the other three. That creates more urgency and a better storyline, and now you're doing something with that spider bite. And even if you didn't want to do anything with the spider bite, at the very ending, when they showed the Night Marchers coming in, they show a close-up of that spider bite. They could have had the dad magically heal it and make it go away to show the awesomeness of the Night Marchers, but it was just left to nothing. And there are many examples of stuff that's just put in that movie for absolutely no reason. All right, moving on to some things that I liked about the movie. Number one, the usage of the Hawaiian language. Hey, all the props goes out to Branscombe, the guy that played Chemo, trying to do a Hawaiian chant. To me, it sounded like rubbish, but to everybody else that doesn't know, good job on doing that. The usage of the Hawaiian language, Olelo Hawaii was in there, right? You had Pilikea, E Kalamai, Ho'oponopono, all of those things are part of the Hawaiian culture. Never thought I would see the day where spam musubi made it into a movie, but that was probably the ugliest spam musubi I've seen. It was like 3 inches of rice and just a tiny piece of spam, but hey, at least it made it in there. I heard menpachi in there, bambucha, and of course the usage of the Night Marchers. However, even though I was really happy to see the Night Marchers in the movie, they didn't use the ikaika helmet. So an ikaika helmet, I actually don't know what it's called, but if you say ikaika helmet to somebody in Hawaii, they're gonna know what you're talking about. It's like a Spartan helmet, but instead of it being like a letter T, it's in the shape of a pair of binoculars. And when you mention the term Hawaiian warrior or Night Marcher, that's the image we think about, is this big gorded helmet with like a hole cut out in the front so they can see through it. And when the dad walked up, I thought that's what I was gonna see as it's panning up and he takes off his helmet. I thought he was gonna take off that helmet, but they blew it. That's like the one thing you have to include with the Night Marcher is that ikaika helmet. So for me, guys, this was a heartbreaker. It was so disappointing. I really wanted this to be the Goonies of our generation. It had all of the necessary elements to be successful. They just didn't follow through on good storytelling, and that's why it fell short to me. Guys, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.